Here are the top stories for today, April 8, 2022. Malacanang remains hopeful that the shift to the most relaxed Alert Level 1 will open more jobs for Filipinos, even as the country's unemployment figure rose in February. The Philippines says its doors are open to Ukrainian refugees fleeing the conflict in their home country, as Manila marks 30 years of diplomatic ties with Ukraine. Calls mount for the Commission on Elections to exempt the grant of fuel subsidy to agriculture workers to help them cope with rising production costs. And the Metro Manila Development Authority is ready to assist travelers for the Holy Week. Some 2,700 personnel will be deployed ahead of the exodus for the annual observance. Good day, I am Stephanie Sevillano. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, is on heightened alert today until April 18 as it expects an influx in commuters this Holy Week. Under its Oplan Biyaheng Ayos, the LTFRB is expecting buses to check their roadworthiness. Concerned help desks are also set up at the designated terminals to assist the riding public.
Mga pasahero po natin, huwag po magpunta doon sa mga private terminals dahil bawal naman po na pumasok yung at mag-dispatch yung mga operators doon sa kanilang private terminals, at ito po ay hinuhuli po ng MMDA. So, maaabala lang din po kayo kapag ang inyong sinakyan ay hinuli po ng MMDA. So, doon na lang po tayo doon sa NLET, sa PITX, sa SRIT at sa Araneta Center Terminal na designated ng mga ITX po mula 5 a.m. hanggang 10 p.m. po.
Malacanang says the shift to alert level system has opened more job opportunities for Filipinos amid the pandemic. According to the data released by the Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA, the country's unemployment settled at 6.4% in February this year. However, the number of jobless Filipinos in February reached 3.30 million, higher than the 2.93 million reported in January. Despite this, the PSA noted that the February 2022's unemployment rate was lower than the 8.8% or 4.9 million unemployed Filipinos recorded in February 2021. PCOO Secretary Martin Adanara attributed the lower unemployment to the effective implementation of the alert level system. He said the current employment situation in the country serves as a concrete proof that the government's COVID-19 response is working. The Philippine government reiterates its readiness to accept Ukrainian refugees amid the ongoing war and humanitarian crisis in European states. During the commemoration of the 30th diplomatic relations of the Philippines with Ukraine, the Department of Foreign Affairs said the country stands ready to welcome Ukrainians seeking refuge from the war in their country. The Philippines was also among the countries to respond to the United Nations flash appeal in March, pledging $100,000 or approximately 5 million pesos to help provide necessary humanitarian aid to people inside the war-torn state. In a recent opinion piece, Ukrainian ambassador to the Philippines Alexander Nichitalo said Ukraine is grateful for Manila's decision to open its doors to Ukrainians. He also drew comparisons between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Filipino national hero Dr. Jose Rizal. In our news overseas, Pope Francis condemned what he described as horrendous cruelties in war-torn Ukraine. In his weekly audience at the Vatican, the people presented a Ukrainian flag given to him from the town of Bucha, as he lamented the state of civilians caught in the crossfire between Ukraine and Russia. The Vatican has offered itself as a mediator in the war between Russia and Ukraine. Moscow is facing criticism from the international community after Ukraine accused the Russian forces of committing genocide and war crimes in Bucha. Russia claimed that images of slain civilians being circulated from there were staged. Still ahead, the Agriculture Department calls for a halt on the transport of pork products to curb the spread of African swine fever. And Labor Department says the suspension of OFW deployment to Saudi Arabia remains in effect, slamming fake news over the issue. We're back after a quick break. Keep it here on the PNA Newsroom.
The COVID-19 pandemic has greatly changed our lives for the worse. Lives and jobs were lost and economies reached a meltdown. Thanks to the arrival of safe and effective vaccines, we are one step closer to normalcy. It's time to do our part, get vaccinated for our safety and for our recovery.
You are there in that community, go there and have yourself vaccinated by any of the vaccines available. They are all potent, they are all effective.
I would like to appeal to all our kababayans, please get vaccinated against COVID-19 and be the government partner in preventing further spread of the disease. I encourage you to get vaccinated as soon as possible time. These vaccines are safe and they are the key to reopening our society. The need for international solidarity and cooperation cannot be made clearer than this pandemic because everyone is safe. No one is safe globally until everybody is safe.
Vaccines work.
A party list lawmaker urges the Commission on Elections to also exempt the grant of fuel subsidies to farmers and fisher folk from the poll spending ban. In a statement, Magsasaka Representative Angelica Batbad said he's appealing to the Comelec to reconsider its decision after it earlier denied the petition made by the Department of Agriculture DA. He said around 160,000 farmers and fisher folks are hoping to receive their 3,000 pesos each of fuel discount card from the allocated 500 million pesos in the agriculture sector. The poll body has earlier granted the appeal of the Transportation Department to continue its distribution of fuel subsidies for public utility vehicle drivers and operators amid an election spending ban. Kabatbat said that while he lauded the decision of Comelec, the agriculture sector must also be prioritized and be given the same treatment. The Department of Agriculture is asking the public to avoid transporting pork products, especially this coming Holy Week. With the reduction of African swine fever cases in the country, the department says the hog raising sector is still gradually coping with the disease. To date, only 7 municipalities and 4 provinces in 2 regions have active cases of ASF.
Nananawagan kami na iwasan po natin magbaon ng mga produktong karne ng baboy from one place to another, lalo na po kung manggagaling ng Luzon papunta ng Visayas, Mindanao, hindi po tayo nakakasiguro. Bagaman sinasabi po natin na maayos na po or kampante po tayo sa lagay ng ASF ngayon, kailangan po patuloy po yung ating higher level of awareness at pagbabantay para po nang sa ganon ay masiguro po natin na hindi po tayo magkakaroon ng spread ng ASF.
More than 3.6 million pesos have already been distributed to poultry farmers affected by the avian influenza virus, according to the Department of Agriculture. DA Bureau of Animal Industry Director Dr. Raildrin Morales said they have initially allotted 25 million pesos for indemnification or aid in exchange to culled ducks, native chickens, and quails. It particularly corresponds to 100 pesos per duck or native chicken and 15 pesos per quail. To date, 70 cases of bird flu was recorded in the country, of which 67 were resolved. President Rodrigo Duterte has ensured the government would strive harder to ensure the protection and welfare of OFWs. The president led the groundbreaking rise of the Overseas Filipino Workers Center in the Anghari, Las Piñas City on Thursday. Duterte said the creation of the center, which is designed to be a one-stop hub for migrant workers, will help promote their rights, development, and welfare. He said the administration aims to provide the best service it could give for OFWs in recognition of their service and heroism. The OFW Center is a 10-story building that will house the satellite offices of the government agencies that assist OFWs. The center is a project of the Global Filipino Movement Foundation Incorporated, a non-stock and non-profit organization. The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, says the 7 migration agencies to be absorbed by the Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW, would remain under the control of their parent agencies until conditions have been met. The DFA said that while it fully supports the efforts of the newly created agency to become fully operational, it may only be fully constituted once the following have been met. In the meantime, it says all migration agencies are still under the control and supervision of their respective parent agencies until such time the legal requisites have been fulfilled. Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. meanwhile said the OFW department's fate would depend on the next administration and that the DFA is not transferring funds to alleged officials of a non-existent office. The deployment of overseas Filipino workers to Saudi Arabia remains suspended. The Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, issued the clarification contrary to a bogus advisory claiming that Manila's development ban to the kingdom has already been lifted. In a statement, Labor Information and Publication Service Director Rolly Francia said the fraudulent document only aims to sow confusion among the public and the workers who were seeking deployment to the kingdom. He said no such advisory was issued by the Philippine Overseas Employment Administration, or POEA. Francia said the Labor Department has already sought the help of law enforcement agencies to track down the source of the bogus advisory. The government is extending assistance to newly hired workers through a one-time free COVID-19 tests. The measure is stated in the guidelines set by the Department of Labor and Employment. They just have to present the following documentary requirements. The complete documentary requirements will be submitted to the nearest DOLE field office, which will then evaluate the application within 3 working days. The DOLE has allocated 100 million pesos for the program to be sourced from the 2022 national budget. The wage body in Eastern Visayas is set to start a series of public consultations on the proposed pay hike. This following the petition to raise the current minimum daily pay in the region from 325 pesos to 750 pesos. Reynaldo Soliveres, Secretary of the Regional Tripartite Wages and Productivity Board, says the proposed amount is too high, but further review will be made together with employers and workers in Southern Leyte Province. He said the wage body will come up with its decision by the end of May. The regional board in Eastern Visayas is a tripartite body composed of 6 members, 3 representatives from the government, 2 from the worker sector, and 1 from the employer sector. More stories from the newsroom. The MMDA is all set to help ensure smooth travel for the Holy Week break. And it's Pinoy pride in the Middle East. We tell you the story of our kababayan who raised the Philippine flag in a bag-design tilt in Dubai. Details ahead, stay with the PNA Newsroom. A member of the Dawla Islamia Mauta group surrenders to authorities. The former terrorist member is only 14 years old. The details from Arafia Kiram of the Philippine Information Agency.
A 14-year-old child member of Dawla Islamia Mauti Group or DIMG operating in Lanao del Sur has surrendered to the folds of the government, including his war weapons. The child, identified as alias Aki, turned over his caliber 45 and caliber 7.62 homemade Barrett as he pledged allegiance to the government at the headquarters of the Army's 4th Mechanized Infantry Kalasag Battalion. Aki said that he has been with the local terrorist group for almost 2 years. Aki's mother shared that her son called him through a two-way radio after 6 months of his absence. According to her, it has been 4 months already since he has returned to their home. She said that they felt relieved now when their son agreed to finally surrender to the folds of the law. Meanwhile, Kalasag Battalion Commander Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Marlon Famoso said that they will ensure the security of Aki. He also said that his surrender manifests the trust in the Philippine Army and the government.
Kami sa Armadong Kusog, kapaningkamot sa pagkunhod sa mga kaaway sa Estado, pinaagi sa negosasyon kung dili man sa mga combat operations. Kining pag-surrender karong hakuna ni Aki nagpamatuod sa taas nga level sa pagsalig nga atong naangkon diri sa probinsya sa Lanao del Norte. Uban sa popular nga suporta sa mga katawhan, kanunay kita nga magaog batok sa mga kaaway sa atong gobyerno.
Moreover, the Department of Labor and Employment Lanao del Norte and the local government of Munay, through its Municipal Social Welfare and Development Office, committed to providing support to Aki and will conduct an assessment of his needs to support him start anew. For the PNA Newsroom, Arafia Kiram of PIA, Ligan City and Lanao del Norte.
The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority or MMDA will deploy over 2,700 personnel in key areas in the region to ensure the safety of the public commuting during the coming Holy Week exodus. MMDA Chair Romando Artes said traffic personnel will be deployed starting today until April 18. The MMDA personnel will focus on entry and exit points in Metro Manila such as the North and South Luzon Expressways, Coastal Road, MacArthur Highway, Mindanao Avenue, and A. Bonifacio. They will also be assigned in popular church like Redemptorist Church in Parañaque City, Santo Domingo Church in Quezon City, San Agustin in Intramuros, and the Quiapo Church in Manila. Number coding is also suspended on Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday. The deployment is part of the government's Oplan Metro Alalay Semana Santa 2022. For those in the Cordillera region who are seeking careers in the government, the Civil Service Commission is holding career service eligibility exams on June 19, 2022. The CSE said the examination will be done in 5 testing sites in Baguio City, La Trinidad Benguet, Lagawi Ifugao, Luna Apayao, and Banged Abra. The career service examination pen and paper test will be for professional and sub-professional eligibility. Civil service eligibility is required for entry into government service with a permanent position. The CSE previously canceled exams in 2020 and 2021 due to the pandemic. The submission of applications will be from April 12 to 28. Applicants may book for appointments online starting today through the CSE's regional and field offices. Another Pinoy pride for the country as Filipino artists bested in an international designer bag competition in Dubai. But their masterpiece is more than just aesthetics as they advocate security and survival for the endemic tamaraw in the Philippines. Here's my report. Who would wonder that this winning blue and yellow spherical handbag is a product of one's aspiration, resonated in the Philippines' endemic tamaraw. Truly a Pinoy pride, this Ameri bag has undoubtedly bested more than 300 designer bags in the 2022 Designer Bag Competition in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Abada's prime designer, 24-year-old Neil Capistrano, shared with the Philippine News Agency how they got the inspiration from the death of the world's last captive tamaraw named Cali.
Ayun, siya lang po yung kaisa-isa at kauna-unahang tamaraw po na been raised in captivity. in the efforts of the Philippine government to help them, to care for them. So, yun po, nag-resonate po ako personally kasi I'm an only child and I imagine myself a lot growing up with brothers and sisters.
The masterpiece was a shared success with his business and designing partner, Bon Martyr. They said the pandemic lockdown brought the best in their creative juices. Its spherical shape resembles a circular economy, with colors blue and yellow portraying security and optimism. But as they hope for Tamaros to strive and survive, they aim to pose a Maribag as an eye-opener.
Parang gusto po namin iparating sa lahat na kaya po naubos yung mga tamaros natin before is due to poaching and hunting, only for their horns to be kept as a trophy.
Besides Samara, they are working on the phase of commercializing other Filipino-inspired products from earrings on top down to toes.
Yung bulol po from the Baguio, inspired lang po siya sa bulol po. Then currently po, yung design po na jeepney heels po, we're making po na commercial version po nito.
Despite the threats due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the two have their messages for other aspiring artists in the new normal.
Hindi nila nakikitaan yung art as some way na magkakaroon tayo ng pera. Just ignore them. If you love what you do and you love the craft that you're doing, please continue.
Parati lang po tayong mag-visualize po and parati lang po tayong tumingin po sa paligid natin kasi lahat halos po si God po is gumawa ng mga beautiful things po.
For the PNA Newsroom, I am Stephanie Sevillano. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. Malacanang remains hopeful that the shift to the most relaxed Alert Level 1 will open more jobs for Filipinos, even as the country's unemployment figure rose in February. The Philippines says its doors are open to Ukrainian refugees fleeing the conflict in their home country, as Manila marks 30 years of diplomatic ties with Ukraine. Calls mount for the Commission on Elections to exempt the grant of fuel subsidy to agriculture workers to help them cope with rising production costs. And the Metro Manila Development Authority is ready to assist travelers for the Holy Week. Some 2,700 personnel will be deployed ahead of the exodus for the annual observance. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear face masks, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We're shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell you stories that inspire change. I'm Stephanie Sevillano. Good day.